The International Energy Agency released its World Energy Investment Report on Wednesday. It basically lays out how the global clean energy transition is going so far. So I wanted to briefly talk about it. Hey y'all, it's Becky here from the Beckosphere, where we talk about climate news and solutions. If you would like to stay up to date with this very important topic, I highly suggest you hit that subscribe button below. If you are listening to my weekday climate podcast, the Climate Recap, this is all the same information I provided in today's episode. If you don't listen to my podcast, this is a little taste of the kind of thing that I talk about every weekday morning in about 10 minutes space of time. So if this interests you, it's available on its own YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, so for a bit of background, the Russian-Ukrainian war is forcing countries, primarily European ones, to rethink how and where they get their energy supplies. Russia is threatening to shut off the gas supply to Germany and much of the European Union via the Nord Stream 1 pipeline. Many countries are looking to the Middle East and Africa for fossil fuel supplies. At the same time, this is encouraging a push towards clean energy and electrification. So this analysis of global trends was done by the International Energy Agency, or IEA, which is a top player in providing data and analysis on global energy trends. It's an autonomous intergovernmental organization that was formed by the Organization of Economic Cooperation in 1974 in the wake of the 1973 oil crisis. I did a video a little while back, actually it was probably like a year ago now, talking about the IEA's pathway to get the world to transition to clean energy in a way that keeps warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. So I recommend you check that out after this video. How we deal with this energy crisis right now is really our last chance to even have a shot at the 1.5 target. My summary of the IEA's findings for the most recent energy investment report draws heavily on this Twitter thread by Carbon Brief's Simon Evans. Carbon Brief is an incredibly reputable UK-based website specializing in the intersection between climate change, science, and policy. Their daily newsletter is one of the main content sources for my podcast episodes. Anyways, I've prefaced this video to death at this point, so let's get into the IEA's findings. Overall, clean energy spending might actually outpace fossil fuel spending this year due to the uncertainty of fossil fuels sticking around in the future. The world will likely spend a record $1.4 trillion on clean energy this year. Clean energy investments had been pretty flat until the last 2 years, sticking with $1.1 trillion a year. This ramp up is still not aligned with the amount promised through pledges, and it's not close to the amount necessary to reach net zero by 2050 though. The IEA warns that the energy crisis we're currently in can push millions of people into energy poverty, and this further emphasizes the importance of providing financial support for emerging economies to transition to clean energy. The crisis is pushing many countries into investing further in fossil fuels, though annual fossil fuel investments are 30% less now than they were when the Paris Agreement was signed in 2015. The IEA found that most upstream oil and gas investments are in existing fields, and most of the investment increase can be attributed to inflation. Oil and gas companies have raked in about $4 trillion from price inflation associated windfall. And the IEA says that this gives fossil fuel producers an opportunity to fund diversification activities. In fact, the profits would be enough to fund nearly a decade of investments in low emissions fuel and carbon capture and storage. Oil and gas companies are increasing their clean energy investments. Those investments only make up about 5% of their overall capital spending though. These investments are primarily in offshore wind. The IEA reiterates that the Russian-Ukrainian war should not give permission for countries to invest further in fossil fuels. The inflating cost of critical mineral risks reversing the declining cost trends for renewable energy and battery storage. But the IEA found that it's also fueling more investments in new supplies, with exploratory spending up by 30% this year and a 50% increase for lithium-focused firms. All of this being said, renewables are still cheaper than oil and gas, especially with the high gas prices. Battery storage investments have doubled since last year, and hydrogen investments have increased tenfold compared to 2020 levels. The IEA expects carbon capture investments to take off next year. Investments in electric vehicles have doubled. Investments in increasing energy efficiency for buildings haven't really increased this year, which is a big missed opportunity to decrease costs for consumers right now. Finally, the majority of all these trends are due to European countries. Europe remains a leader in transitioning to clean energy, which none of my podcast listeners should really be surprised to hear based on just daily news. And those were all their main findings. Which trends did you find the most interesting? Let me know in the comment section below. And check out the Climate Recap podcast if you would like more of this quick and dirty news coverage. Until next time, remember to talk about the climate crisis every single day and to support your local news organizations. Thank you to the people on Patreon who help me pay for my equipment and the many news subscriptions that make these climate recaps possible. A special shout out to the climate confident and courageous David H., Norman Anal, Greg H., Paul B., Phil Plasma, and Dan Morton. I greatly appreciate your support. If you would like to support me monetarily, check out the Patreon and buy me a coffee links in the description box below for reoccurring or one-time payments. Bye for now. Shh.